From boardroom meetings to bedtime stories, Coffee in the Barn explores the delicate dance of balancing the demands of our professional lives with the joys and responsibilities of being moms. Join us each week as we discuss the latest trends in agribusiness, share insightful interviews with industry experts, and sprinkle in some heartfelt anecdotes about the humorous and heartwarming moments that come with being a working mom in agriculture. Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee in the Barn with Casey and Morgan. This episode, we're going to be talking about toolboxes, whether that's what we carry around in our truck with us, or in Casey's situation, sometimes she's flying and has to bring specific tools with her for whatever job she's doing.
You make it sound like whatever job I'm doing, like, yeah, you should see what I travel around with, either on plane, car, train, automobile.
Casey's a jack of all trades. You never know what she's up to.
That's what keeps life interesting.
Full of surprises. So, Casey, what do you drive around with in your vehicle? Because we know that you do nutrition work, but you also do some necropsy work for some consultants. What does your toolbox look like in your truck or when you're traveling outside of driving?
Well, I could say my toolbox from when I started at Calmback as a PhD nutritionist, and I started having to go between farm and farm. I've always had a biosecurity box in my trunk, like a tote or just a bag of booties and Tyvek type of coveralls. And now you go into poultry, they also want you to have a hairnet. So those are probably main things you'll see in my box at all times, and gloves, of course. So I have both latex or vinyl gloves, and then I have rabbit-proof gloves and scratch guards for rabbits because I do with rabbits. I carry around some coveralls or lab coats depending on what I'm doing. Like if I don't need something disposable that I could take home and wash, I'll have those in there depending on where I'm going. So those may change out. The other thing is you mentioned necropsies. So I have conical tubes to collect fecal samples. I have bags to collect feed samples. I have swabs. I have a scalpels, and I have a knife set. I have a knife sharpener. I have IDEX OptiSpot cards for blood samples are some of the main things I carry around on a regular basis. So if I get a call out, I have a customer that's having issues with their animals, I can get samples and get it into the lab. But I also want to note when I say necropsies and stuff, and we can digress because I want to hear about Morgan's bag and toolbox. But I'm not a veterinarian, but I work closely with veterinarians. So my goal is if I'm there seeing the problem, and I think it's a health issue, I want to take the right samples, either if it's the whole animal, a tissue, a swab. I want to be able to take that, get it to the diagnostic lab, and start working with the veterinarian to say, hey, I noticed these problems. I took these samples. They are going to the lab. Maybe you need to get out for a visit, or let's wait until we get the lab results. And a lot of times I'll even FaceTime with a vet or take a video of my necropsy so they can see what I'm seeing at the same time, if that makes sense. So that is some of the stuff that I do on a regular basis for my clients. A lot of the clients I work with don't have a full-time veterinarian on staff, and so they partner with local clinics in the area or different veterinarians, and sometimes I'm their eyes and ears because they're not there every day as well. So that's my main box that I have today. We can talk about the rest of the fun stuff I carry later on. But what about your toolbox?
Well, being that primarily I'm just working with producers and my main job is a nutritionist. So very similar to you, I have a box in my truck that I have biosecurity measures in. I have booty covers, face masks, white Tyvek suits, as well as just a change of clothes. Because sometimes, depending on the facility, they may or may not have clothes for females. And so having just an extra set of clean clothes, I can use it just in case, or if I make a mess and I need to change clothes, they're there as well. As well as, during the different times of year, whether that's winter or summer, if I'm traveling, I'll always have some water bottles as well as a shovel, snow scraper, the typical things you carry around with you in the Midwest. And then I also have feed sample bags with me in case I need to take a feed sample and submit those to the lab as well. We work with quite a few different labs, so the submission forms are usually a little bit different. So I usually don't I have those on my computer, but readily available in case I need them. I also always have snacks, either in my backpack or in my truck, because you never know when you're gonna get hungry.
I faced that the other day traveling. I'm like, what do you mean the Delta agent's not coming back for another 2 hours? I came early so I can grab some lunch. And luckily, the hotel next door hooked me up. But yes, I didn't take Morgan's advice and have snacks because if I have snacks, I eat snacks. And that's not a good thing for me. But
You just have to make sure you have the right snacks.
yes, I was going to say, I do, depending on the season, change out clothing too. So, like, I'll have a warmer sweatshirt that I can wear that it's okay if it gets dirty or stinks. If I'm going to hog farms that are shower in, shower out, I do also have some extra female size clothes because a lot of times that's hard to have. But luckily, since I mostly just go to my research facilities with my partners, my clothes are already there. So I don't necessarily get into a lot of biosecure hog farms that I'm not already working with and have a dedicated shelf or drawer in their system to have my stuff to come in and out. For the people who aren't maybe in the swine industry, why is our toolbox of having that biosecurity stuff so important? And this is not just pigs, by the way. This is for all species. Why do we carry that stuff for people who are listening that may not work in our world?
Well, even on the cattle side, you'll see most of the time veterinarians or nutritionists or anybody that's walking around on a dairy farm, they're going to have like rubber booty covers that they can put over their shoes as well. And I have a pair of those in my bin too. But pigs specifically are very susceptible to different diseases, whether respiratory, viral, bacterial, that are traveling around. But people are one of the, I would say, highest biosecurity risks for bringing in some sort of disease into a facility. And so that's why, specifically for pigs, we have to shower in, shower out at most facilities, especially sow farms, given that sows are where the baby pigs are, and baby pigs are the most susceptible to the different diseases that we have in the industry. But most of the time, if you're just being asked to come onto a farm, you're coming for a certain purpose. That's why a lot of farms aren't open to just the general public. But there's a lot of diseases that can be transmitted interspecies, whether that's between cows and pigs or chickens and pigs or poultry, vice versa, or even just like the common cold can be transmitted between pigs and humans. And so making sure that we are healthy and are wearing clean clothes to minimize our risk and disease transferred to those animals is top of mind for most producers.
And I would say the poultry industry, in my mind, and maybe even the dairy industry, if we look at what's going on today with high path AI, the dairy industry is now getting a smack on the hand to say, well, maybe we need to up our biosecurity because we've had that first case of flu go between a bird to a cow to a human. And that's kind of scary when we think about pandemics or different things like that. And I don't know about you, but working in a swine facility, I've always had to have the flu vaccine because we can actually for sure give pigs the flu.
Yeah, when I worked at the biomedical facility I worked at, we were required to have a flu shot. But now I'm not on the farm as much as I used to be. So I tend to not get vaccinated for this flu shot any longer.
If you don't have to, but I'm just saying I've had jobs where it was required. And so that's a whole different debate. But I think for people who may not be in our industry or something that we can use to, if you are in the industry and you're educating the consumer, hey, we take animal health and welfare to the extreme that we just don't go in and hug and pet the pigs or the chickens or the cows. We have special clothes, we clean our car. The other thing that I know I do if I'm going between sites, different even clients or customers, is like if I visit a farm, my car gets washed.
Yeah.
I think that's not in our toolbox, but that's I have a membership to a car wash here. My car gets washed between different site visits or customer visits. Now, if I'm doing multiple site visits for that client, I follow the biosecurity pyramid and not necessarily have to wash. But if I go between like a rabbit or a poultry farm or a pig farm, it is getting that wash step. And those booties are also to protect the inside of my car that I can't power wash as well, or that carpet. And so you also see a lot of people who work in livestock operations, their floorboards of their cars aren't the carpet ones. They buy the rubber mats.
Yep.
And that way we can take them out, power wash them, disinfect them, and all that. So I remember getting my DSM car, and I got a little upset with the HR department that was handling it because I guess based on my pay level or my C level, as they called it, I could not get a car with leather seats because I guess I didn't get that upgrade. And I said, I don't get leather seats in my car for vanity purposes. It's so I can wipe them down.
Right.
And so that's something else, like my personal vehicles, they all have leather, so I can disinfect my vehicle properly. And kind of that's just some of the stuff that I do. That's not a toolbox, but yet my vehicle is my toolbox. So those are things that I have to do to take care of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point because we're in the middle of looking for a new truck, and leather is one of our. It gets a little bit more expensive when you're shopping for a truck that has leather versus fabric seats.
Yeah, I mean, it's also good for the 3 kids and everything they just disperse over your truck as well. But
It's not going to be a everyday driver, but yes,
well, still, they
definitely
may
helps
be in
at
it
the same time.
someday. But yes,
Yeah.
vinyl or plastic flooring, those upgrades, leather seats for biosecurity are really important. You'll notice a lot of poultry guys, which I kind of have to laugh at this, and swine industry does it a little bit. They have a sprayer in the back of their trucks, and so every farm they go on, they spray the tires. But I'm like, you're not spraying the one that's sitting on the ground, and you didn't wash them. So that's the unique thing about some swine facilities. They even have tire washes, which can bring in disease. So on your undercar, on your tires. So there are different principles of helping avoid that, but a lot of times you can see that while it's not perfect biosecurity, but it's that mindset that, hey, I'm paying attention to this. And so that having that toolbox in my vehicle all the time, no matter what I'm doing, is also my reminder. What am I doing to protect the health of the animals that maybe aren't under my care daily, but are under my care and guidance? So
Right.
I say that's my toolbox in my car because that stuff can stay in the car, but usually I never travel without my phone or my computer and charging cords.
Me either.
But that's a typical physical tool. And when I was wanting to do this, and this plays onto the lists and the bags episodes that we just released, and we were asked to kind of go in more in depth and talk about our tools. So I'm going to talk about a necropsy kit. And the poultry industry has done this really well. They have this wrapped up thing, and you have everything in it. What is it a necropsy kit? At least that I carry. I may not be perfect. So I have found, since I work with a variety of animals that can go from very small to very big, my tool selection has to be different. I like a flat scalpel blade. I think that's a number 10 blade is what we call it. So I have those. That way, if it's a very young animal and the skin's not that thick, I can cut through very easily. So number 10 scalpel blades. I have a pair of what EMTs and firefighters carry around. They're surgical scissors or whatever they call those, emergency scissors, because they can cut through bone. They can cut through anything. I find those are the best scissors. I do have another pair of necropsy scissors that aren't as awesome as the EMT scissors I carry. I have a fillet knife. I have officially given my husband back his honey knife set, and he's like, "You mean really? I can have it?" I was like, "Yeah." So sometimes you need that knife. I like those scissors because it can cut through rib when I'm, especially chickens and stuff and rabbits. And then like the blood spots, I think this is the coolest thing about IDEX and the technologies coming to our industry is just a little spot of blood can tell me like what different diseases animals have. I think that's interesting. And having, like I said, bags for organs, fecal samples. I prefer conical tubes because you can really screw them tight and they don't leak. Maybe like some bags may with poop. And that is kind of my necropsy kit. It's nothing really fancy, but it gets the job done. And as I say, of course, gloves, and I have a mini Sharpie container now that I can carry around as well if I need it. You can get those on Amazon. Just the little red buckets.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't have to. I usually just have everything shipped to the farm when I need to do any necropsies or extensive blood collections or anything. You don't carry a centrifuge around with you?
My research farm has one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really take blood samples. Like I said, it's just a drop. So when we do it with the rabbits, it's just taking a needle and pricking their ear vein and just holding that to the ear vein. So, and if I do anything with birds, it's bringing the whole carcass back. Now, we could get into the conversation of what I all carry around in the portable van that I have is I call it the portable lab van for Verax, because that is completely different, Morgan. And that's not a daily toolbox. That's like, yes, you see Casey in a big high top white van that says Verax on it. Or if I have a rental, it's usually because I have lots of equipment and a lot of supplies. And that's not a simple thing to carry around in my car trunk.
Yeah, probably not.
But I used to always have, when I was on swine farms more, I did have blood collection tools for pigs and stuff. And a snare. I have my personal snare because I've been in several farms that their snares are awful.
Yes, I would definitely, there's 3 different types of snares that I've used, and I definitely have a preference over one over the other.
Yeah, I think that's another good tool to talk about snares. And obviously with pigs, we have to restrain them. And so there's different types. There's a handle one, there's just a hand one, and it's basically metal wire, metal pole. But there's also like snares and everything else that, veterinarians would have. I'm not a vet. I wish I would have a vet on to talk about what's all in there. You see a lot of these large animal vets with the insert into a truck. Like, I'd be curious exactly what's all in that and what we get by with in a little tote in our back of our vehicles.
Well, if you're mentioning snares, we also need to mention red boards and rattle paddles. Those are just some tools on the farm that we use just to keep our employees and pigs safe to move animals from one area to another.
Yeah, and we have makeshift rattles. Rocks, coins, and old sustainable source plastic containers. Those are some
coffee
other cool
cans.
Tools. Yeah, coffee cans. So we get creative when it comes to moving animals, and I know we're talking about portable, but we could go into all the tools we use. And honestly, that would probably be better for a video to say, hey, here's a tool. This is what it's used for. Here's a tool.
Yeah.
Versus audio. But this is kind of talking about if you're coming into the industry, you better get a biosecurity box in your car. You just never know where you're going to be. And you were going to say, I've also invested on a physical toolbox to be able to fly now with my necropsy kits. So Obviously, working and helping DSM on the Verax project, they have a lot of Pelican cases to carry their equipment around. But I finally invested in my own Pelican type case that I can carry my biosecurity stuff in. And the one I bought was also so I can carry my camera gear because I'm doing a lot of, training videos, doing a lot of interviews. So it's a multi-purpose container suitcase I bought that if I need to switch out my necropsy stuff for my camera gear, I can. But I think something else I put onto that is I have TSA locks on it so I can lock it and have security. So that's something else. In a car, you got your car locked, which is fine, but if you're traveling with your tools, I would invest in specialty locks because you just never know. And also, I mean, even Morgan's house, if you were going to carry a box in with a knife or have a captive bolt gun, sometimes I have to put in my kit. Those things are dangerous. So even with little kids, locking it up. What are some other physical tools? How do you make your office comfortable that you have?
Like the office I'm sitting in right now.
Yeah, ergonomics. Like, talk about how you set up your home office.
Well, I bought a table and a chair off Marketplace that smelled like smoke from some lady's apartment in Madison. And I got it for a really good deal. So I scrubbed my chair to make sure it didn't smell anymore before bringing it into my house. My other desk is a hand-me-down one from my aunt that they got, and it was damaged, so the company sent them a new one, so they had an extra one. So I
got the damaged one.
Got the damaged one. I have a printer, 2 screens on top of my computer, external mouse and keyboard with a number pad.
Oh, you just hit a nail on the head. So if you're setting up your home office and you're going to work from home, external keyboard and mouse makes all the difference. But I choose to buy a smaller laptop that doesn't have the number pad. So when I travel, sometimes I have an external keyboard or a number pad I carry with me.
Oh, really? Yeah, I just got a new computer that does not have the keypad, but my old one did, and I've had to just transition back and forth. I haven't brought my external one with me.
I'm sure they're wireless now, but I used to have one. But as an animal scientist entering data research, that number pad is essential to your life. I think that's important to note. Even if managers are listening to this, what type of computer do I buy? If the employee is going to be traveling a lot, I really suggest a light, small computer. If the employee is involved in research, they need a number pad for data entry. But my system's very similar. I bought a standing desk. Do you think I ever used the standing portion of it? No. But there is one thing I've always had in my different offices because I have short legs and my back's not as great. So I have a little rocker and it works better than a cardboard box because I always smush my cardboard boxes. So I invested in a rocker so I can not only have my feet to sit on something, but I can move it and release pressure. I've seen these really, my sister-in-law has a nice foam seating pad that she sits on, and I've seen people with exercise ball chairs, and I've been looking at some of these rocker chairs and like, oh, that would be kind of neat to sit like that. I know I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Ashley Wagner Wells. Her office setup, wish I could do, but I don't think I'm coordinated enough. She has an under-desk treadmill, and a lot of times she's on the treadmill as she's working. And she's like, do you mind if I stay on my treadmill while I have this meeting? I'm like, no, get your exercise on, girl. So I think that's interesting. Printer, if you're a totally digital person, great, but I still like to print and read certain stuff. So a printer, it's more the scanner too for me. I probably use the scanner just as much, if not more, than the printer component of my home printer or office printer.
I've used a big yoga ball before, which only when I get further along in my pregnancies and I'm sick of sitting in this not very comfortable office chair. But I've contemplated getting a standing under the desk treadmill, but for how many times I'm just like sitting here reading, I don't think I could read and walk at the same time. I would probably break something.
Oh, something else I have, my big water cup now. I like to drink ice water, so I make sure it's accessible. I have my coffee cup, coffee in the barn, right? Goes in pro. I got that one today. I forgot to bring the coffee. I switch them out because I like to get them washed,
That's a good thing. Proper hygiene.
proper hygiene. So yeah, it's a regular coffee cup. But yeah, that's like the toolbox of physical items that animal nutritionists have. Oh, we should talk about ruminant nutritionists. I'm not necessarily a ruminant nutritionist, but a lot of times the Penn State's box sieve system that they will look at TMRs or silage
Yep.
to see how much as the particle size changes. I know a lot of ruminant nutritionists will have that as well. I would love to have a handheld NIR, and I keep saying AB Vista or BASF. Would you please let me just have one so I could promote it and brag that I got a handheld NIR? But I know those are the new tools. We have even looked at, to service our clients, portable microtoxin systems.
So we have some of our larger customers, or a lot of the dairy farms that we have a small little Rappy read system is what it's called. And a lot of our customers that are testing, that go through a lot of feed and need to check the mycotoxins on like every truckload or batch that comes in, have these portable mycotoxin testing.
They're like little disk computer thing.
Yeah, little computers that they have in their offices where they can analyze things like right there.
And we had that at AB Vista. We have test kits that are for ELISA based, like yes or no is the enzyme in your feed. So out in the field, you could test that. I obviously don't work there anymore, so I don't have that test kit in my toolbox, but there are different tools like that. And I forgot the most important tool. I'm glad I went down this path. I have a thermal camera in my bag. And when I first started in research and those thermal cameras came out, they were very expensive to have. But I can look at heat zones, draft issues in barns. You can see if the litter of pigs are hot or cold. You can see all that with this thermal camera, and they're a lot cheaper than they used to be. So that is also something, if you're doing a lot of site visits, I would recommend you investing in, is one of those thermal cameras, because it comes in handy a lot. I find a lot of ventilation issues or sick animals through those thermal imaging, and I can save pictures and stuff and use it in training in my reports if I want to.
Nice. I bet one day there'll be just like an app on your phone and a little lens you can like
screw on
to your phone, and then it'll just be.
I mean, they make something like that. Maybe here. Whoever's listening, if you know about it and you know the company, you can send a free one. I'll try it out. But that is our physical toolbox for this week. And I want you all, because we did promise in our bag episode, in these show notes, there's going to be a link to sign up to get on our newsletter. We're going to start a newsletter, and we're not going to bombard you with emails, but get in there for that Amazon gift card, because you can use that towards the mesh bags that we talked about in previous episodes, or that thermal camera that I talked about, or if you just need some supplies you don't have in your toolbox today, we're going to be giving away some gift cards for that. We want to get you guys signed up. So if you're listening, get into that form and that link. And thank you. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts. I have now done formally. We are everywhere on every type of listening and streaming device you have, including YouTube. So we should be linked. The only thing I've had issues with, because it's more on their part, is iTunes with Alexa. They're still working through that process of getting podcasts in that. But we're streaming everywhere. We want you to follow us. We would really appreciate your reviews. We want you to sign up for the newsletter, get a chance to get your Amazon gift card. If you're going to World Pork, we're going to be there live doing interviews for Coffee in the Barn and the Real P3, our other channel that we have. But catch up with Morgan and I and learn more about how you can get on the Coffee and Barn, support us, and everything else.
Yeah, we'll see you at World Pork.
See ya!